Hello everyone, it's Robin and welcome back. So today I have a furniture makeover to share with you. You may remember I recently found this roll top desk for $8.99 at my local Goodwill, and I've transformed it to make it look like this instead. I am absolutely loving the update and I'll show you how I did it, so keep watching. So jumping right in, I got myself out a paintbrush and my Citri strip, which is my favorite stripping gel. It is great for using indoors and it does not smell terrible. So for this project, I decided to work in sections. Starting with the drawers, I added a nice thick layer of the stripper to each of the drawers and then let it sit for 30 minutes. Sometimes a little longer if I thought it needed it, but most of the time 30 minutes was all that I needed to let it sit on there before I could move on to the next step, which was removing the stripper. I started by removing the stripper on the edges of the drawers first, and as you can see, I'm using a toothbrush right now. This worked really well, and then once I had the edges done, I moved on to the front of the drawers, and with that I used my paint scraper. And as you can see, it came off really easily, which I was very happy about. Once I had all the stripper removed, I used a damp cloth to wipe down the whole thing just to make sure that I had removed all of the stripper. Once the drawers were done, I started on the base of the desk itself, and once again I worked in small sections. You can see here I'm working on one side. I add the stripper to one side of the desk, wait for it to do its magic, and then remove the stripper before moving on to a different section of the desk. So to remove the stripper from the desk, these are the three tools that I basically used to start off with. The first one being this right here, which is a paint scraper. One side has a blade like this. It's probably about an inch, maybe an inch and a half. And the other side has just like a little, I have no idea what you're supposed to use this for. I've never used this side before. But I'm assuming like maybe for like window panes or something like that, you can use this end, but I've never had to use it. But anyways, so I used the paint scraper, and then this little wire brush came in really handy too, especially like for along the grooved areas, like on the edging and like the molding and the drawers, you know, like the detail work and stuff. So that worked out really nicely. And then of course a plain old little toothbrush, which is looking rather gross at the moment because it's full of, you know, like old stain in there now. So I'll just have to throw this away. So just a thought, keep your old toothbrushes, just give them a nice little boil and then put them in a stash. You can use them for projects like this. They come in really handy for the small detail work. So those are the three main tools that I used. Once I had the whole desk stripped of its original finish, it was time to do some sanding. Here you can see I'm just using a small piece of sandpaper and doing some hand sanding because I was totally digging the process at this point. So I did most of the drawers all hand sanding, but by then I was getting a little tired. So when I got to the base of the desk itself, I broke out the big guns and used my Black & Decker mouse wherever I could, and that made things go a little bit faster. This desk had a lot of little nooks and crannies that the power sander could not reach. So of course I had to do a lot of hand sanding as well, and I'll show you some of the tools that I used for that here in just a moment. So I just kept sanding until I got the look that I wanted, which was a rustic kind of raw wood look. When I got to the sanding part, these are the basic tools that I use. Any of the big spaces that I could use a power tool on, I use this it's a power sander by Black & Decker. It's called the Mouse. I like it because it's got this nice little pointy tip on it, which makes it easier to get into, you know, the corners and stuff like that. And then of course the sanding pads for that, I used mostly just medium and fine grit sandpaper for that. And then I have a sanding block in medium. Like some of the areas of the desk, I used the stripper on it twice and it really didn't take off very much of the color, so I had to do a lot of sanding to get down to more of a raw wood. It's just the grain of that particular wood in that particular spot, the way it was cut, it really soaked in the stain. So I had to do a lot of sanding. So I used this a lot in like the smaller areas, which made it much easier. And then of course I used regular plain old sanding paper, which I cut into these little squares, folded it in half like this, and then sanded into the itsy bitsy little places. And then I bought this little gadget at the store. It is looking rather rough right now. It was nice and yellow and beautiful looking when I first got it. I think I picked this up at Menards. I cannot remember the name of. I'll try to find it and link it down below for you guys. But this thing rocked. Basically, it's a foam, you know, little gadget, but it's got like Velcro on the bottom of it, and it comes with a whole bunch of these little Velcro on one side and sandpaper on the other. You get a whole package of them like this, and you get fine grit ones, medium grit ones, and like a coarse grit also. So basically you just put these on here like this, oops, and they just stick on there like Velcro. This thing totally saved me a ton of space, or time. Once all the sanding was done, it was time to add a protective coat to my desk, which for some reason or another, I did not end up recording it all. But I did use my favorite Minwax water-based polyacrylic in the clear satin finish, and I just applied 2 coats of that. When it was time to put on the polyacrylic, I used this paintbrush right here. These are my favorite little paintbrushes. I think they just call them chip brushes. I'm not sure. This is 1.5 inches, which is my favorite size. They have natural bristles on them. They're really short, easy to hold on to, and I just love these things. So I use them all the time. I think they're like 52 cents if you buy them separately at like Menards, or I know you can get them in big packages. I will list this down in the description box, as well as all of the other links that I can find for any of the products that I used today. So, but anyways, if you're wondering what kind of brush to get for just a basic, you know, all-purpose sort of paintbrush that you can use over and over and over again, this is my preference. At first, when you're first using these, they do tend to shed just a little bit. You know, you'll lose a few bristles here and there, but it's not terrible. I use these for just about any sort of painting project. Whether I'm painting walls or I'm painting furniture or a craft project, this is my first choice of paintbrush, because they're cheap, they work fabulously, and they fit really well in my hand. So I just like that. So just thought I would show you those in case you're wondering. Once I had applied 2 coats of the polyacrylic and then put all of the drawers back in the desk, this is what it's looking like. And oh my goodness, I cannot explain to you how much I adore the look of this desk. It looks like a brand new desk, and I absolutely love it. With its new look, it fits so much better into my house and the scheme of things that I've got going on, and I absolutely love the light and dark areas. The way that the old stain cling to like the detail work, it just highlights it so nicely, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by. I would love to know what you're thinking about this project down in the comments, and I will see you soon. Bye now.